And thank you for joining us for our first virtual WorkWell forum with the Greater Phoenix Chamber Foundation. We're excited to have all of you here today. We have a great topic, as so many of you are all exploring returning to the workplace. We have a great presenter here with Torrie Michaud from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, who's going to share their back to work strategy and answer some questions for us all today. I hope that you all were able to enjoy our Wellness A to Z Day on Sunday and got out and got active in the community. If you haven't shared with us on social media yet, feel free to continue to do so. There's lots of great fun activities to get you out, even in this time of social distancing. So we have some really good content, as I shared today. For those of you that are participating, if you have questions, feel free to add those questions into the chat box. Torrie's going to go through a presentation, and then we'll cover all of those questions towards the end of the presentation. And before we kick things off, I just want to thank all of our sponsors, our Wellness A to Z sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Equality Health, Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Cigna, Delta Dental, Arizona Diamondbacks, and Humana. And I also want to thank our partner organization, the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, for joining us today and helping spread the word. So we'll go ahead and kick things over to Torrie. Torrie is the HR director at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, and she has over 19 years of experience with Blue Cross. She is responsible for developing and implementing HR programs that enhance their employee experience and achieve strategic goals. Torrie serves as a trusted advisor for the organization on various business and HR matters, including talent acquisition, employee engagement, performance management, HR systems, compensation, their healthy campus, and other corporate initiatives. She is focused on enhancing systems, resources, and processes to achieve operational efficiencies and improve employer and manager experience. Definitely an interesting time for Torrie as she's navigating our current situation. And Torrie is also a fellow graduate of Arizona State University, so go Devils. And with that, I'll kick things over to Torrie.
Hi, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. I think we went over this earlier, Jennifer. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for the Chamber for allowing us this opportunity to talk through some of our return to office strategies. I was thinking back in 2019, I was asked to be a panelist with Wellness A to Z, and we were hosting at Blue Cross on our campus with buffets full of food, people sitting side by side, shaking hands, and just really having a great time and experience. And I hope the same for today, even though it's a really different environment, right? And so I think one of the things that we've been cognizant of in our return to office strategy is just, this is really new to us, right? This is all new. These are new work environments. Our employees have, certain feelings and fears and thoughts about what they would like to see in the future. And we're just trying to be very fluid in that process. So I have never had or hosted a webinar, and I particularly have not done that in my home. We were just talking about having children in our homes, our husbands working from other rooms, my 13-year-old dog who could probably bark at any moment if the UPS truck shows up. So it's just a really different and fluid environment. And as we're looking at the return to office strategies, we want to keep that in mind. So I would thank you and encourage you all to listen to your employees, get their feedback, make smart decisions, but let's still stay nimble because things are changing every day. Every day we learn something new, and every day our plan is slightly changing. So this is kind of where we are today. We're going to give you an overview of some of the efforts that we have taken to deploy our employees to home work at home environment, and now how we're planning to bring them back. I think I'm probably going to turn off the video while we go through the slides, but I did just want to say hello I've been getting some peer pressure from my peers in HR about being on video and connecting to each other. And I will tell you, it does make a difference to see their faces and to stay connected with them. I also did my hair today, so it's a really important thing that I don't want this to go, wasted. But again, just thank you for your flexibility and understanding. I think that's what I've been so impressed with, is how much collaboration and how much kindness and understanding that we have for each other as we're all adjusting to this new normal. And how things continue to evolve. So I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to keep going so we can advance through the other slides. Just really quickly about who we are as an organization. Obviously, we're Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona. We serve every county in Arizona, and we have over 1.7 million customers. We were founded in 1939, and we have 2,400 engaged and amazing employees working in 6 Arizona cities, all with the focus of providing the best value in health insurance and related health services to improve the quality of life for Arizonans. And I think I have been more impressed with our organization as well as our employee population through this period of time of uncertainty, and how responsive and how well we have worked together to really create a new environment, but also to share concerns and thoughts and ideas about how we advance and continue to serve the people in the state of Arizona, our customers, our members, and obviously keeping our employees in the forefront of our mind. A little bit about our organization. As I indicated, we have 2,400 employees in the state of Arizona, Flagstaff, Tucson, the greater Phoenix area. We have 12 different office locations. So when we're considering our return to office strategies, we're looking at 12 different buildings and different business segments as well. And so we have to create strategies that are unique and understanding of what they're experiencing in those environments, and as well as what kind of work they're doing for the organization. And we're about 70% female. We're seeing an increase in our millennial population. I'm sure that most of you are as well. And one of the things that we really want to highlight for Blue Cross, which may be different than some of your organizations, is we have a diverse workforce, right? But we are a corporate environment. So we don't have as much, we have a limited face-to-face interaction with the public. And so our environments might be different than yours or your industry or your culture. And as you're defining your strategies, we obviously have to take that in mind. So some of what we're talking about today may not be applicable to you and your workforce, but again, it's still a huge effort to transition to off-premise work and then on-premise work again. And I've been really thrilled with the collaboration that has been exhibited within our organization, and so proud of our leadership team and their direction and just how responsive we have been during this pandemic. So we can go ahead and advance to the next slide. I'll give you a quick overview of where we are today and kind of what we've done. Our team was quick to mobilize to telework. Our employees have been working from home since March 16th. Prior to this pandemic, we had about 25%, I'd say, of our employee population teleworking. We had several occasional teleworkers, but definitely it was not the majority of our employees that were working remotely. And within a 2-week period of time, we were able to shift to 97% of our employee population teleworking. And we have not seen any disruptions in our service to our members, who are our priorities. And we have heard nothing but positive feedback from our employees in terms of our responsiveness. We've launched new technology to the organization to support a virtual environment, training to our employees to support a virtual environment. We've created an internal microsite full of different communications and resources for them to take care of themselves, as well as how to take care of our members, and just how to operate in this world that most of us were not accustomed to. We've also done some really great things with our wellness initiatives. I think most of you may know we had a pretty large Healthy Campus initiative, and we have a very strong presence and priority on wellness for our employees, and that we didn't want that to change. So we started launching different virtual training classes, different virtual exercise classes, We've had opportunities to engage people's children in those different virtual sessions, cooking classes with our on-site dietitian from her kitchen. Our fitness center coaches at Exos have been launching exercise classes remotely and doing those also geared towards children and their family. And it's been really interesting to see the participation. People have really liked this remote option and this virtual environment where they can still stay healthy and connect with each other. And so one of the things that we're really looking at as we go through our return to office strategy and planning, something that our CEO and President Pam Cahaley is amazing at is, you know, when faced with a challenge or an obstacle, she's always looking for the silver lining and what can we learn and how can we grow and how can we improve our organization. And this is one of those opportunities to expand our wellness efforts. This has been something we'd wanted to do, was reach our satellite campuses more completely, reach our employee population that was teleworking. And this has really given us that opportunity to explore different channels, to educate them on nutrition and exercise, and also just incorporating their family more completely. And so I think it's been appreciated. It's been well received. We're seeing great participation numbers. And super grateful for all of the work of our internal communications team and our partner in Exos. One of the fun things that our internal comm team has launched is something called Blue Smiles. And it's an email that goes out every day to our employee population, and it's something, you know, cute or clever, or, you know, a picture of, actually there was a picture of one of our HR team members, Brooke Grant, and her little daughter Willow sitting in a chair like the boss, and it just super cute ideas. And seeing people's family in this new environment has been something that will bring a smile to all our faces. So we appreciate the opportunity to engage in our workforce, continue clear communications as we're all moving through this a piece at a time. Can go on to the next slide. So when we were planning our return to office strategies, the number one thing that we wanted to hear from was our employees. We wanted to put them at the forefront of this decision and get their feelings. We wanted their honest feedback on how they were feeling about moving back into the office. And so we conducted a survey of all employees. We were very specific that this survey was not going to be anonymous. We wanted them to know that they were identifying themselves and their special, if they had any special requests or needs, and what their thoughts were, how they felt about returning to the office, what situations would be challenging to them if they were to return to the office. And as you can see here, two of the top reasons identified as, you know, having preventing an employee from returning to the office would be childcare challenges. I have an 8-year-old who's in 3rd grade, and that would have been challenging for me and my family had I had to go back into the office. And so I was clear to speak up about that with my leadership team, and also working with the people on my team. Also, there's individuals that consider themselves in a high-risk category, right? 39% of our organization felt either themselves or a family member would be at high risk if they were going to return to the office. And so we wanted to take that information and formulate that into a way that our employees would feel comfortable coming back into the office. We also learned that 71% are able to return to work on site on a voluntary basis, and 99% are willing to continue to telework during a phased period of time. I think we heard 86% is what I understand, that would be willing to still continue to telework in the future in some capacity. So one other thing that we learned on the last slide through the survey was employees wanted us to take extra precautions and measures if they were going to return to the office. And that relates to our facilities, deep cleaning, ensuring physical distancing, temperature checks. That was going to make them feel more safe and secure in the office. And so again, getting their feedback and going in and sharing this information with our leadership team and distributing this out as we formulate our business plans is going to be really important. And so what we've done with that information is we had a work from home committee that was formed, and now we're doing a return to office work team, which is a very collaborative cross-functional team with representation across our organization, obviously human resources, organizational training development, communications, operations, facility strategy, information technology, our healthcare quality assurance team, and also our subsidiary company, Health Choice of Arizona. And so we've been meeting about 3 times a week. We meet and we discuss new information, and we're finalizing our approach and our strategy. But number one, our guideline was if an employee could continue to telework, they can perform the essential functions of their job and they're being successful, we should allow them to continue to telework. Employee safety, customer service, and obviously business continuity are paramount in all of our decisions. We're going to put that before all else. We also are following our guidance from our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Napoli, and also the White House guidelines on opening up America again. So that's a hard one for me to say, so I had to go slow. It's like opening up America again. That's a lot of things right there. But we're following the CDC guidelines, right? And these things, they're changing rapidly. We're learning more, and we're continuing to just evolve our business plans and formalize some of our procedures. But right now, we have not reached a date on when we will return to office. We're all still, 97% of our employee population are still working remotely very successfully. We're not going to make a decision to return to the office until we feel comfortable and we know that our employees feel comfortable. And again, I know I've probably said this multiple times, but these things are changing every day. Every day we meet, we get a new piece of information, and we're taking that into consideration, all while moving forward in some of these different key areas that we'd like to look at. So we can go on to the next slide. We do know that our business level plans are definitely going to be on a case-by-case basis. No employee is the same, no business area is the same. We need to really work with them to formulate these business strategies. And some of those considerations that we're looking at are cleaning and sanitizing, right? That makes sense. We have super clean facilities and a wonderful work environment for our employees, even prior to this pandemic. But of course, there is an expectation for additional cleaning. We're looking at doing a deep cleaning of all of our workstations and workspaces. That would include chairs, keyboards, mice, phones, all of that stuff. And then we're going to continue a cleaning schedule and hopefully document that cleaning schedule and share that with our employees so that they can see the efforts that we're taking. We're looking at providing disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer stations available within the workspace where employees may be returning, so they can wipe down their equipment and their workspaces and make them feel like they have the appropriate tools to keep their environments clean. We're also exploring a couple things with using nanoseptic film on our elevator buttons and door handles, which could turn these public touch points into continuous cleaning surfaces. So where there's areas of high touch, we're trying to use this nanoseptic film to install it and hopefully prevent any spread of viruses. We're also looking at different technology, including ultraviolet light wands, which can be used to disinfect people's laptops or their cell phones or other office equipment that might have more frequent touch points. And we're looking to provide those to each area along with those disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer stations so that they can use these wands, which we hear and we're understanding, like I said, we're still researching this more, can disinfect an item in about 60 seconds. So really looking at different and creative ways to use technology, and then, you know, the tried and true disinfectants to keep the environments really clean and at a level that will make our employees comfortable. Our workspace changes. So we have a very open floor plan. We've been moving to this collaborative work environment and open spaces. And one of the items that we're looking at is, as we go through different business areas, how can we modify and adjust to ensure that our employees are being compliant with physical distancing requirements as it relates to their workstations. So continuing to monitor that by each area. We're also identifying if an employee took Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona equipment home, they can keep it at home. This way, an employee doesn't have to bring the equipment back into the office. And also, if we had to ever redeploy them to work at home, they would already have access to that equipment. We're also considering things like staggered start times, staggered work schedules. So allowing office equipment in office and at home could be very helpful and useful to supporting those different schedules. We're looking at modifying some of those open collaborative spaces with higher panels and different shields to protect each individual, as well as obviously the appropriate and adequate physical distancing. We're looking at removing chairs from our open spaces, such as our break rooms and tables, and chairs from our collaboration rooms and conference rooms. We're encouraging that people continue to meet virtually where possible, and if required to come back in and meet together, that they practice that physical distancing, or they wear the appropriate face covering as part of those conversations. We think what will be available on site is we're still going to offer some food options and prepackaged meals and grab and go items. We'll still have that open in our break areas. We'll have limited water and ice machines available, and we're implementing increasing the number of times that our employees, that our facilities will clean those spaces. So we're actually beefing up our janitorial services and focusing in on high touch, maybe common areas. And we're working with our fitness center, our on-site fitness center, to devise the plan on what's appropriate for reopening that as well. And then, so other return to office considerations that we're looking at right now is temperature checks once a day. So again, we're looking at a phased approach, and if employees can continue to telework, that is something that we will support and recommend. But for those people that may need to return to the office, we will be performing temperature checks once a day. Anybody with a temperature of 100.4 or greater will be asked to return to home, and that they can work from home for 14 days following and have to return once they are fever free. We'll be doing this every day for any employee that is coming on our campus, but it's only required once per day. Any employee who is going to be moving around in common areas, we're asking them to wear the appropriate face covering or a mask. So if you're going to get up, you're walking through the hallways, you're using the restroom, you're going to the break room, any of those areas, we are asking that our employees wear the appropriate face coverings during that period of time. When they're at their workstation, if they can practice the appropriate physical distancing, then they should not be required to wear a face mask during their day-to-day business operations. We are not requiring gloves at this time. If employees choose to wear them, they can. But we want our employees to be practicing, the CDC guidelines and hand washing practices and things like that, versus masks can sometimes get contaminated and give maybe a false sense of not spreading germs. What we really prefer is that they use the hand washing practices, hand sanitizer, etc. in place of gloves. And then we are providing our employees with personalized sanitizers and wipes. So if anybody is returning to the office, they will have their own supplies, not only within the workspace, that designated area, with hopefully the ultralight wand and the disinfectant wipes and the hand sanitizer, but they'll have their own that we're providing at their workstation as well, a personalized sanitizer and wipe. And we also just recently mailed out mask or face coverings to all of our employees. Each employee had two. So we're hoping that they will be able to utilize those and continue to follow the CDC recommendations in that regard. And then finally, I guess what's next? So this is a fluid process, and we are continuing to work on our employee messages, making sure we're putting together return to office guides. We're creating checklists and training for our manager and our employees. We really want to work on a consistent employee communication that will calm our employees' nerves and answer the questions or concerns that they might have before they have to return to the work environment. We're looking at doing different videos on, what they can expect, what the work environment looks like, showing them the temperature check process, giving them insight into where and when they'll have to use their mask, looking at the different signage that we'll be deploying throughout our organization with instructions and recommendations on following the CDC guidelines. Things like only 4 people to an elevator, or encouraging them to take the stairs. All of these things are in the works, as well as, like I said, that training that we want our employees to take so that they understand the new workplace expectations. they understand what they would need to do if they were to return to the office. But first and foremost, we want to encourage them through these communications and this different information that we're sharing to make sure to elevate any concerns that they have about returning to the office with their managers, and have discussions on that. Anybody that has, the child care issues, people that might feel that they're at risk, they don't have to come back into the office. Even people that may prefer or not feel comfortable coming back into the office, we want them to voice those concerns, and we want to be responsive to those employees. I know that I've talked to the people on my team, and I've heard people say, I am not somebody that wants to work from home. I am not cut out for the work at home environment. I can't wait to get back in the office. And then I've heard from others who maybe never teleworked and didn't think they would like it. And they're like, you know what? This is kind of helping me. I enjoy it. I'm finding more work-life balance, and I'd like to look at that in the future, but I'm open to coming back in the office. So we're really trying to be strategic and meeting the needs of our employees, but also meeting the needs of our customers as we're defining those business plans, and just making sure that our employees feel connected and like they know what's going on and what they can expect and how they can talk to us through this process, because it is so new to everybody and we're all just learning together. So that's pretty much the presentation as a whole. I know I talked pretty quickly too, so I'm sorry if I buzz through anything. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any. I can go ahead and turn my video back on.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Torrie. That was really great. I know we at the Chamber are also considering our back to work policies and looking at best practices, many of which you shared today. So definitely some considerations for us to think about as well. It seems like throughout your presentation, the common theme was around communication and making sure that the employees are well informed. Can you dive a little bit deeper into what some of the things that employees are sharing with you as concerns? You talked a little bit about, concerns around childcare and coming or being at risk. But what are some of the more detailed concerns that you're hearing?
Yeah, I think really we haven't announced our return to the office date at all. So our employees are continuing to telework right now. I think what we've heard through the survey that we discussed the most was the childcare issues, as well as people who felt they were at high risk or their family members were at high risk, or maybe they just weren't ready or comfortable, or trying to understand what else we are going to do within the work environment to make sure that they're protected. Those additional cleaning processes, temperature checks, sanitation of their workspaces, maybe that we're staggering schedules or where they sit in this environment, and really just trying to understand how our workforce and our workspaces will change in the future to support these CDC guidelines that we plan to follow.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think every employee, like I said, is a little bit different, and I just hope that we're looking at them on a case-by-case basis, that we're not doing a one-size-fits-all, because it's not one-size-fits-all. And some people, you said, are ready to come back in. They're ready. They're like, I'm coming in tomorrow if you'll let me, Torrie. And I'm like, you got to stay home right now. You got to stay home. But again, we want to make sure when we do that, that we feel comfortable with that our employees feel comfortable with that. And you're right, Jennifer, communication strategy is key, but also making sure that the leadership team is understanding those elements and reassuring their employees, and that they're able to speak to those items as well with their teams.
Yeah, and I think we're experiencing the same thing. I have a handful of team members that don't know how they're going to transition back into the office, and some that ask me regularly when they can get back in, and love the social interaction of the team.
Yeah, I think we were talking about having children at home the other day, and I told my son I had this presentation today, and I was like, I'm talking about returning to the office. He's like, well, why do you ever have to return to the office again? Like, you seem to be just fine working at home. But I thought that was cute from the 8-year-old's perspective of, isn't this just the way that it's going to be forever? But I'm going to tell you, I am not well versed at homeschooling and working. So in that regard, I am grateful that the school year is about to end and we just have to start focusing on summer for now. But I think that our employees share that same concern, and just offering that flexibility so that they can meet the needs of their families and their own health conditions as well as those of their family members is important.
Yeah. So you mentioned homeschooling, and I've got little ones at home as well. And I think all of us are navigating different challenges in this new environment. How are you guys helping your employees navigate, homeschooling or other different challenges, caring for their maybe elderly family members or others throughout this process?
Same thing, having open conversations and dialogue, making sure that people have awareness to what your situation is at home now and in the future, so that we can make the appropriate modifications and provide flexibility to our employees right now. So it's not uncommon to have, crying babies in the background or babies on a lap or, but I think it's also been a really unique and opportunity to connect with our employees in a different way, to learn more about them and their families, to really be creative in how we work together and just working through that on a case-by-case basis. I think the way that our organization has handled this for our employees, I hope has left them with a lot of trust in our organization and an understanding of how much we care about them, because we truly do care about their well-being, as we do with our customers and our community as well. But I know myself, I've been like kid bombed, right? Where they just come in and they're asking a question and you're like, hi, this is, my son right here. So, which is cute and fun and really breaks up the normalcy of our day. And again, I've appreciated learning more about people throughout the organization, and that flexibility and understanding that we're all providing to each other right now, I think has been very meaningful and a really good opportunity to continue to foster the culture that we see within our organization.
Couldn't agree more. We often say that we're more connected and we engage more as a chamber family in this type of environment than we did when we were all in the office seeing each other every day. So it's been
definitely
an interesting shift.
It is, and it has been. It's been very good. Interesting. For sure.
So one of the questions in the chat is around the questions that you asked your employees in the survey. I know we also just launched a survey for our staff members, but would you be willing to share those broader questions with the folks on the webinar?
Yeah, I think we can share it. We took a very modest approach. It wasn't a very detailed survey. It was hitting some basic concepts and areas about how our employees were feeling about returning to the office, if they're available to return to the office, what items that they would experience or challenges. So yeah, 100%. I'm sure that we can get that to you, no problem.
Great. Another question is around the time frame, and I know you had mentioned that you haven't considered a time frame. One of the things that we're hearing from our members just broadly is there's a wide gamut of time frames for when people are planning to get back into the office. I know I talked with one company yesterday and they were looking at September. Another company is looking at October for a variety of reasons, but I think most people, as you indicated, are just looking at things, everything being so fluid that they're just trying to really be patient with that decision. But I think we're also looking at what this looks like in the long term as well. So to what extent do you think you guys will shift to a more broad remote work moving forward and moving out of this?
Yeah, in that survey, like I said, 86% of our employees indicated that they would like to telework in some capacity in the future. And we're definitely taking that into consideration. What does our new work environment look like? I think this transition has proven that we can continue to meet our business objectives and still, whether that's in the office or at home. So providing that flexibility to our employees, considering that for the future, we are definitely looking at how telework could look in the future. We've been teleworking in our organization for years now. We've had a remote workforce, but never to this magnitude or reach. And I think one of the concerns that we are continuing to explore is, as we provide these opportunities for our employees to expand telework and to continue to meet virtually and to use new tools and technology, how are we also going to stay connected with our employees and our culture? We are so proud of our culture at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona. We feel very connected to each other, very aligned on our purpose, very driven to do the right thing and impact and improve the health of all Arizonans. And we don't want to lose that opportunity that we have to connect with each other. So exploring those different ways to do that in a remote capacity is definitely on our things to do list, and making sure we don't lose that momentum or lose those opportunities, but that we have an opportunity to support our employees in a different way. I think we believe it will change and shift. It's been definitely an eye-opening experience. We've launched new technology faster, in a blink of an eye. And just to see how flexible and nimble we could be, it's super encouraging to wonder how we could be that flexible and nimble in all of our initiatives and strategies. So I think that collaboration, that flexibility, that nimbleness that we've found and want in our population as it relates to our values and our culture, that's been shown and proven here. And if we can continue to do that and move forward as an organization like we have during this pandemic, I don't see why we couldn't provide more flexible opportunities to our employees should they desire to do that.
Absolutely. And I know we've heard in talking with other companies, lots of folks that have mentioned, we had this project on the back burner that we were thinking about, or we were looking to launch in 2023, but we've really accelerated given the current environment. So I think it's interesting how teams are shifting as well. Have you guys looked at cross-functional teams as part of your kind of short-term strategy in this new environment?
We're obviously operating with a cross-functional leadership group, right? And we're also asking people as they're devising their business plans that they don't just operate with themselves in mind, right? If you are one area and you depend on another area, well, your decisions impact them and require them to come into the office. So having that, how are we connected? How do my decision as a business owner on our return to office strategy impact another business, I guess, in terms of their return to office strategy? So definitely, I'm not sure if that's answering your question, Jennifer, as it relates to cross-functional teams. We have an agile environment now, so we have a cross-functional teams that work on different business priorities for our organization. But I do think that we're seeing that flexibility and collaboration just continue to increase as a result of, this pandemic, quite honestly.
Great. Well, if anybody has any additional questions, if you want to go ahead and add that in the chat box or the Q&A box, we would love to take those on. One additional question for you, Torrie, and this one is specific to where do you find sanitizer wipes? But just I'll open that a little bit more broadly around PPE. I know lots of companies are considering coming back online and obviously want to make sure that they have the right PPE. Have you all had challenges accessing PPE in the current environment, and any recommendations there?
Yeah, I think we ordered things quite some time ago as it relates to PPE, and there was obviously a waiting period, right? I think we all have experienced a waiting period on certain items. Or a shortage of certain items that we're used to having readily available. But we have been thinking of those things for some time, right? And they have been in the queue. But that being said, as we are exploring these new items, we have to make decisions pretty quickly, right? Because you have to decide if we're ordering the nanoseptic, other people are probably going to start ordering the nanoseptic, and we're starting to see that there's an increase in that demand. And so getting ahead of that and making sure that we're planning for the future, we're working very closely with facilities and our procurement department and other people within our organization, getting line of sight to just IT equipment, right? So we're saying your employees can keep items at home if they're returning to the office, and then getting an understanding of what that IT equipment will look like, and how much do we have to purchase, and how long will that take to get here. Those ultraviolet light wands, that we're considering buying, like, we need to make a decision on those, because again, there may be some sort of decrease in the supply or the availability of those items in the future. So you're right, it has to be built into your plan. And if you don't have them, you can't say that you're promising them if you cannot deliver on those items. So really making sure that when we do return to the office, we're not looking at 100% coming back into the office. We are looking at a phased approach. Again, our strategy is, if you can continue to telework and that's your choice, please do so. And that way we think will limit the number of employees in the office and the type of supplies that we will have to provide to the organization in the future. So we are definitely looking at a staggered introduction back to returning to the office. And then as we know the numbers who are coming in, making sure we have adequate supplies. But definitely an obstacle in this process is, the wipes and all of that other fun stuff that you just can't find anymore, can you? So
yes. Well, we celebrated an anniversary the other day, and my husband came home from Costco with a package of toilet paper and some flowers, and I don't know which one I was more excited about. So
totally, I know you're like score when you go to Costco and you can get the paper towels or the toilet paper. It's pretty unusual to see that. We went and we're like disinfectant wipes, and they're like, no, we don't have those yet. So, but I agree. I know I think we all have a little bit of a storage supply of toilet paper around here these days. So
we're getting a better stash. So just one final question to kind of wrap us up here. And we talked a lot about communication, but as employees come back, that sense of safety is going to be vitally important.
Right.
So how are you ensuring that sense of safety as people continue to come back to the workplace?
We're making it very visible. Right. We're going to make it visible within the workstations and within the areas. We're going to have people see the efforts that we're taking. With the temperature screens, we're considering doing that in their vehicle on their way into the office. And that way it's not as disruptive. There's some more privacy. If somebody does have a temperature over 100.4, we can simply give them the CDC guidelines, ask them to contact their manager, and they can, return home with a minimal disruption. But making sure we have those training videos and those other situational videos available to the company and making them understand the efforts that we're going to take. We're also have a very heavy, you can see here, return to office strategy of welcome back, and putting that signage throughout our buildings, where we'll have signage on the appropriate utilization of your mask. So things are just going to be everywhere. How often we're cleaning the restrooms, different things of that nature, to really give that visibility and understanding that we have additional janitorial services on site. Removing the office equipment, putting clear markers on items, really making sure that our employees can see it, not only before they come into the office, because that's hugely important, but even while they're in the office environment. So everywhere they go, that they will see those reminders of, us really watching out for them and asking for their support in that process. So that's our plan. Obviously heavy on the communication is important, but making sure that's a consistent, thoughtful message that we're reiterating to the organization through multiple channels and opportunities to engage in that dialogue with our employees.
That's great. It's so interesting. The open office environment of the past quickly became the open office environment of the past, where we're now looking to put up barriers and walls. So
I know.
Interesting.
I really hope, that this isn't forever, and that we can all regroup and have lunch together and feel comfortable and confident in doing that, and that we can continue to engage and meet with each other like we've been able to do in the past. But I think it's just important to not do that until we're all comfortable with that as an organization, as an employee. So I think that's the path that we're on, and we will continue to do that. So.
Absolutely. And I know I said the last question, but I'm going to put one more final question in here, just and switching gears a little bit. So onboarding folks during this time has been really, really interesting. How are you guys handling that process, and how have you changed any onboarding of new employees?
So we are 100% onboarding all new hires remotely. We've enhanced our pre-hire communication strategies with the candidate, with the new hire, as well as the manager, to understand what are their expectations, and we're almost individualizing that new hire onboarding process. We're couriering their equipment to their home, so they don't ever have to come into the office to pick it up. We are setting up different meetings so that they can have that support from the HR team, as well as technical support, as well as their manager teams, We're creating onboarding checklists for our managers on how to onboard somebody virtually, just different strategies to really help make sure that we're still staying connected. We have, an employee which would have been in-person classroom, welcome, and here's who we are as an organization. And we've shifted that to 100% virtual. And just really, again, I think everybody, whether that's a new hire or a manager, has just been really flexible and understanding. We've had to extend some of our timelines for onboarding because of the limitations with courts being closed, or people not feeling comfortable participating in some of our onboarding requirements or screening processes. And so we've had to look at that differently. But I think, again, that individual outreach from the staffing team to that new hire to reassure them this is what the process is as they're going through all of those phases of not only just the onboarding, but the interview process, right? The interview process, the screening process, telling them up front and early on, this is what we're doing, this is how we're responding to this pandemic, and this is how we're operating right now. So they know up front what they can expect. And so it has been a shift, and that didn't happen immediately March 16th. We worked really closely with our IT department and human resource department and our security officers to evaluate and move people to the 100% remote onboarding. Initially, we were practicing physical distancing and wearing masks, but I think for about 5 or 6 weeks now, we've been about 100% remote onboarding. And we get compliments. We are getting compliments from the new hires, how smooth the process was, how grateful. I was talking to somebody the other day, is like, I must have been the first person that you've done this with because I felt like so special and everybody was catering to me. And I was like, well, I'm so glad you felt like the only one, but no, we've done this with a few. So it's been interesting. It's been a transition. But again, I think when you keep the employee experience at mind, when you can tell them what to expect in advance, and obviously we have amazing employees, and so they are willing to work with us through that transition. I think everybody's just being super understanding right now.
Yes. Well, Torrie, I want to thank you so much for your time today. You guys, Blue Cross Blue Shield continues to lead the way in this space. I love everything that you shared around how you're incorporating workplace wellness, even in this virtual environment. We've created some communications. We have a weekly Live Well Now communication that we're sending out that includes information on healthy eating and activities and things like that. And we internally within the chamber, Melissa Diaz, our Wellness A to Z manager, she leads a weekly mindfulness moment with the team, but she hasn't done cooking class yet. So we're gonna have to get her on for cooking class in the near future.
Yeah, our on-site dietitian who's free to our organization, she has Caitlin's Kitchen. And so she's just really stepped it up and done some really creative things, and even made like a fruit pizza for kids the other day, and just really creative, posting recipes every day like you all are doing, just to stay healthy. And to, it's hard. The kitchen is right down the hall now, it's like much more tempting than it was before. So we're all trying to stay active and encourage those healthy practices that we want to see, not only in our employee population, but in our community. So thank you for all your efforts that you're doing there and sharing all that information as well.
Yes, well, thank you again. And for those of you that are listening in online, we will have this recorded webinar available on our website. The team over at Blue Cross Blue Shield has offered to send those survey questions along with some information on the nanoseptic film. I know somebody had a specific question on that. So we will send those follow-up resources out in a future communication. And thanks again for attending today. As I mentioned, make sure that you're checking out our weekly Live Well Now communications. We have a few more weeks of that going. And then also we have another upcoming WorkWell forum on June 3rd. That will be a morning event, so 8:30 to 9:30. And the topic for that event will be mental wellness as we transition back to the workplace. That we're going to have some long-term effects from folks that are working remotely and operating in this new environment. So hopefully you will join us for that. Thanks again to our sponsors and to Torrie and the team at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe. Bye-bye.